Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store, our Kings. We're here with Spencer Fearon. Spencer, I think it's been a little while. There's been quite a lot gone on, but first off, how are things with yourself? How are you getting on, mate?
You know what? I'm all right, but a bit gutted at the loss of James Cook, MBE, former British and European super middleweight champion. Um, but yeah, apart from that, I mean, I'm pushing forward. But that one's really been like a bitter pill. It's like being it's been like a crazy month. We lost Mike McCullum, and we've lost James Cook, and I was very close to both, but I was really, really close to James. So that one's kind of got me a bit, but you know what I mean? We're returning to the source.
I wanted to ask you about James Cook. And I know how obviously close you are. I've seen you reference him. What struck me was when people talk about the man, they say, yeah, great fighter, great trainer. But aside from that, what he's done for people, just in general, the communities he's touched. And when you think about the state this country's in now and bringing people together and, the differences, apparently he was one of the what I'm reading, obviously, and you know better than me, like pioneers who were like, you not find anyone say a bad word about the guy.
No, you will not find not one solitary person to say anything of any negative connotation about James Cook. There's certain people where you want to sit down and I'm not in a position to say, but to my ideals, if anyone's going to get a straight pass to heaven, I reckon it's going to be James Cook. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. He was such a beautiful human being and he was selfless. He was really, really selfless. He would go out of his way. Imagine the crazy thing is this. I see James Cook in the build up to the Eubank Ben fight because he was working with Anthony Yard and he looked very gaunt then when I saw him. But I didn't know they had cancer because they told Tunde not to tell me. And so I turned up and I see him. I said, James, man, it's like you're looking drained. Like you're living this too much fancy life with your wife. So he laughs. And when I heard that he was in hospital, I go to see him and I'm sat by his bed. I'm sat by his bed and he was actually falling asleep. I was holding his hand and that. And it was just me and his wife, Carmen. And I said, Carmen, I saw him at the open workout and he looked very drained. And she said, yeah, that day he actually went and had chemo. So he had chemo in the morning, then he went off. This is his dedication. He had chemo in the morning, then he left from having chemo, and then he goes to the public workout. And I was saying, but why did he go? Why, if he knew he was ill, why did he go? And we thought James was sleeping. He just gets up, he wakes up, and he said, look, I couldn't let down the boys. And that's the type of person that he was.
Wow.
Selfless, man. And like me talking now, it's kind of welling me up a little piece. So, you know what I mean, come let's talk about
No,
the
no.
box.
Sorry.
Nah, it's all right. It's all
I
right. It's
thought it
all
was
right.
appropriate. You give someone the flowers. They do a lot of good in the world, not just in boxing, and it's good to touch on. But look, let's get to boxing then. Over the past week, we've seen a lot. Boxing's this merry-go-round at the minute where things are coming out of everywhere. But we've finally seen the announcement for Canelo Crawford. We know it's going to be in Las Vegas on Netflix. Dana White's part of the promotion, which is a bit of a wild one for his first ever promotion. But Turki Alalshikh's making things happen. First off, now it's been announced and it's official, you see the posters. How excited are you for the fight? As obviously a purist, someone who's almost a boxing historian, people call you. How excited are you to see this fight?
So you say almost a boxing history.
Now, people almost what people call you. You are. You are. You know what I mean? Go on.
I'm joking. I can see the
I know.
comments right now. No, let's Terence Crawford. I was having this conversation. Let me also say a massive big up to Eddie Lam that received from the Asian list. I was there. Eddie Lam for receiving for when you get sports contributions or trainer of the year. So he received that, and I was at that. I was at that. I was at the sports list, the Asian sports list, and I was there. And big up Dev Tani as well. He got an
Yeah,
award as
shout
well.
out Dev. Shout out Dev. He's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
guy.
They've got an award, and also Izzy Asif got promoted a year. You know what I mean? So well done to those gentlemen. So it's been really, really nice. It's my friend Sonia. She puts it together. So I've been kind of like on the panel behind screen. It's kind of weird, like it's the Asian list. but I'm on that panel. I've been helping them for years. Maybe hosting it a couple of times. Anyway, so I'm there. I'm sat down. So it's like the old days. It's like me, Ed Robinson, Bradley Skeet, and Jay Spades, the rapper, um, at the table, and we're talking about this fight and who we picking for this fight. And I didn't want to go straight off and say I'm going Crawford, and like everyone knows I know Crawford as well. Like it's cool, Richardson on my podcast. So I don't want to go like, oh yeah, because you know when someone's your friend, it's very difficult for you to go against them, right?
Yes.
Publicly, and it can cause a massive rift as well, right? So my mom says, if you ain't got nothing good to say, shut your mouth, right? So we're all at the table, and everybody on the table was going heavily Crawford. Right, heavily Crawford. And I was kind of surprised a little bit. And I rate Ed Robinson, his boxing knowledge. I do. He's head guy boxing now, so I rate his knowledge. I'm grew up with Ed. So, but I was very surprised that everybody on the table was going Crawford hard. Now, I'm going Terence Crawford, but I'm not going Terence Crawford hard. Right?
Yeah.
Historically speaking, Mexican fighters in a whole do not handle speed very well. Okay? Mm-hmm. There's famous fights that we could go back to. Was it March of 2003? Roy Jones versus John Riz for the WBA heavyweight championship.
Heavyweight, yeah.
Right? Mexican fighters don't handle speed very well. And that's at the higher weights. But if we to go down in the weights, Julio Cesar Chavez versus Merrick Taylor, what was that, March 17th, 1990, Merrick Taylor was punching the living daylights out of Julio Cesar Chavez, who's arguably the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, right? Until he got caught in the dying last 2 seconds of the fight. So if you look at it, Mexican fighters don't handle speed very well. The thing is that Terence Crawford is fast, but he's not a speedy fighter. He doesn't like
Terence Crawford. Khan.
No, forget. Look, and you see? Now, there you go again. What was Amir Khan doing, Matt?
I'm telling you.
Canelo until he got knocked out. And people are going to say, but, in a marathon, you could win the first 800 meters. It doesn't mean anything. No, in this, it does.
He was doing what he had to do. The only way he could win that fight, using his speed, using his sharpness. Right. And then you've got to dance with the devil a little bit and hope that you don't get caught with that shot, which Canelo lured him in and did. Yeah. Is what it is.
Well, also, you got to realize that Canelo actually set him up for that shot. He did set it. It was a horrible shot. But you have to look at it as this. Terence Crawford is amazingly talented, right? And we're looking, don't go by the Magnum fight, right? To think we're going to be judging Terence Crawford over that. I'm going to be real with you. Terence Crawford has come for the biggest win in his career. He's moving up in weight now. And at the time, he's going in with an undefeated fighter who actually doesn't believe that they can lose. That's what happens when you're undefeated. You don't think you can lose, right? And yeah, it was a little bit of a lackluster performance, but does that mean that we're taking away from Terence Crawford? No, Terence Crawford is amazingly strong. He's amazingly strong.
You see him wrestle with people. It's different. He's a bully. He's a beast.
He's a bully. So I'm got to be realistic at the fact that you could get caught and you could get knocked out. You could do, yeah. Do I think that you will be lulled into that full sense of security for that to happen to you? No, I don't. I think that Terence Crawford, and it's not a payday for him as well. He's going to get paid fantastically well, but it's not a payday. He is actually chasing greatness, and he's saying, like, this is the fight that I want. Reason why? Because they see flaws inside of Canelo. And we're not talking about the Canelo of 10 years ago.
No.
Right, we're talking about Canelo now, right? Who is in the twilight of his career, who is picking. And I kind of feel sorry for Canelo because he's in a no-win situation. If he beats Terence Crawford, people are going to say, well, you were just too big. Right, you were just too big, right? And if he loses to Terence Crawford, it's like, yeah, well, you're an old man and you should retire anyway. You're just greedy. You went for the money. So he's in an open situation. But for boxing purity, yeah, this is still kind of a pick 'em fight, you know?
Yeah. No, no,
Right. It's
I'm
still
with you on
kind of
that.
a pick 'em fight because there are loads of intangibles in this. But me personally, I just see, and this is speaks to great guys. Like last month, I was speaking to Ronald Rinky, right? The former multiple weight world champion, who's like one of the
Legend.
best technicians that I've seen. I've been fortunate when I was a kid, I got to spar with him. Like he was going heavily for Terence Crawford. Antonio Magic Man Tava, heavily for Terence Crawford. So I listen to them because I respect their opinions greatly. So because of that, not because of their going for him, I'm saying of the things that I've seen Terence Crawford um, winning a hard but comprehensive points winner in this fight.
I
Hard
think
but comprehensive.
I think in his words, I can't remember if he said this on the Andre Ward podcast, but something like a win for him puts him on the Mount Rushmore of boxing. It puts him up there with every competition. Now he's got a great legacy as it is. Does a win over Canelo, because obviously we mentioned Canelo's in the twilight, but obviously the danger is he's moving up in the weight. So there's that leveling out. Does a win over Canelo, or depending on the manner, put him up there with all the names that you can think of, especially in this era when you're talking of the Alexander Usyks who've achieved what they've achieved and fighters of the past? Does it put him there for the conversation?
Um, it takes a lot more than just that to be on the Mount Rushmore. Not just your boxing skills alone, right? Because if it's on the boxing skills alone, I'm telling you this now, Ricardo Lopez should be
Yeah,
on the Mount Rushmore, right? He's one of my favorite fighters, mate, right? But he's not going to be on the Mount Rushmore. Why? Because it's not just about because you're a damn good fighter. It's not, right? But he has every right to believe like I get this win and I should be on the Mount Rushmore, right? But it's not just your boxing; it's also how the general public are enamored to you and
yeah.
stuff like that. But he's right. If he gets this, he could well be up on the Mount Rushmore.
I want to touch on someone else who has had that impact, I feel, outside the ring as well as in the ring and the divisions that he's conquered. Um, I think it's a bit mixed, is this, but I want to ask you the return of Manny Pacquiao, 46 years of age, Mario Barrios, WBC world title. He's been given that pass to say, look, you're a legend. We know the eyes you draw in. You can come back and fight for this title. One exhibition, I believe, in 4 years. Didn't look great. Apparently, he never trained for it. He just turned up. But look, Mario Barrios is going to get well paid. He's never going to say no to this opportunity. But what do you make of it? Is it something where you're like, I'm intrigued, you're unhappy with it? What sort of feelings do you get when you think of him coming back now?
Um, Fighters fight, and I remember Barrios when he used to do with Virgil Hunter. He's no longer with Virgil Hunter. So he's a decent fighter. And the thing about it is this now, to beat this old version of Manny Pacquiao, all you got to be is a decent fighter. Right? You don't have to be no special effects, no up and downs, no nothing majorly good. You just got to be reasonably decent. I reckon you could be because you're in there with an old Manny Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be intriguing. And you never know, Manny Pacquiao could pull this one off. But yeah, again, we got to be realistic and say, like, you're 46 years old. You haven't, but when you did, but I remember the fight that you had, I think it was in Japan or one of them countries.
Yeah,
You look absolutely disgusting, you look terrible, right? But fighters fight. And that's what it is. And I'm also happy that Barris isn't a concussive puncher.
yes.
Yeah.
He's not like a tank, like where you
No,
go,
no.
oh my god, no.
Yeah.
I think.
So because of that, then Manny Pacquiao, he's in with a shot. I don't know because but I wouldn't want him to win. I'm gonna be real with you
Mm-hmm.
because if he wins, he's gonna continue. I don't want him to win. I'd like to see like you be one of the greats of all time, right?
Yeah,
And you just chill, sit down, and smoke your pipe.
yeah,
Because I just wouldn't want to see Manny Pacquiao get hurt. That's all.
yeah. Agree. It'd be somewhere to bow out as well with that green and gold belt. Let me talk about a fight that got announced, I believe, yesterday or the day before. August 16th, Riyadh season card. Moses Itauma and Dillian Whyte. We most of the time for what he's done now looks brilliant. He looks well schooled, looks a monster. I'll be honest, but he's not fought anyone with the level of experience as Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte has not been on a great run of form, but Dillian Whyte turns up fit, in shape, ready to go. Look, it's his biggest test to date. What do you make of the matchup first of all, and what's your sort of take on it?
I think it's a very, very good matchup, right? And I think it's a very, very well educated gamble on the side of Francis Warren and his father, simply because they've done their homework. Dillian Whyte, for what, it's kind of weird. Like, Dillian Whyte is the person now entering into a big fight, right? Where he's got the more experience. That's never been the case for Dillian Whyte. Look right throughout. You can see the right thing away.
Facts.
Right? Where he hasn't. This is the first time that we're seeing Dillian Whyte. All of the big fights that Dillian Whyte's been in, right? He's been the guy with the lesser opponents. Even if you go back to Derek Chisora, he was the guy with lesser experience. We go back to Andy Joshua fight. He was the guy with the lesser experience. Tyson Fury, he was the guy with the lesser experience. Povetkin, lesser experience. All of the big fights is the first time in the history of Dillian Whyte's career, right? Mm-hmm. And he's fighting in Argos, right? This is the first, right? This is the first time in his career that he's the guy that's going in the ring as the veteran. Now, not only do you have to be the veteran psychologically, but you've got to be the veteran physically, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to be the veteran physically where you can try and sneak things and try to old man out Moses Itauma. How many rounds has Moses gone? He ain't gone past 5 rounds, has he?
Don't think so. Well, wait.
No, exactly. No, I'm keeping this thing totally 100. Moses Itauma is a monster, but he's an untested monster, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can go back in history, right? Because as I did. I remember Gary Logan, my good friend, was at Mickey Duff's office, the late, great manager and promoter. He's at Mickey Duff's office, and it was Bill Caton phoned Mickey Duff and said, look, Mickey, we're going to put Mike. This is where Mike Tyson was going to come up. So this is about 85, 86, before he became world champion. And he goes to, now we're going to put Mike in with James Buster Douglas. And Mickey Duff said, no. He's all wrong for him. He's all wrong for him. You don't want that fight. He's all wrong for him. And lo and behold, we flipped the page to, was it February 12th, 1990. He gets the win over Mike Tyson. Styles really, really do make fights, right? Yeah. And it is whether or not Dillian Whyte has the desire. Because let me tell you this now. Moses Itauma is a southpaw. And a lot of people think like, dealing with a southpaw, you've got to throw a big right hand at him, right? Because they're the opposite to you. In dealing with southpaws, I would say to anybody, just listen to me now. Let's start with Spencer. That's a long time I've been in this game. If you want to know how to deal with a southpaw, you've got to do loads and loads of shadow boxes. Especially if you're an orthodox fighter, reason being because your reflection coming back to you, you've got to be southpaw, right? And if you go and you look in the mirror, you know your reflection coming back to you, what's the key opening? The key opening isn't necessarily the right hand. The key opening is actually the left hook. Now, what I'm saying to you is this, in the heavyweight division right now, tell me anybody out in the top 10 who throws a better left hook than Dillian Whyte. Tell me.
Yeah, it's his money punch, isn't it?
That is his money punch. So on this here, I'm a little bit, when people will jump out, oh yeah, Moses, I'm saying, listen, this is not going to be an easy fight for Moses Itauma. And if he does breeze this as an easy fight, there's going to be loads of intangibles. Oh, Dillian was old. He weren't motivated. No, I know Dillian Whyte. I've known Dillian Whyte since he's been a kid. We used to bless him to come down at the Real Fight Club gymnasium when he was 17 years old. Dillian Whyte is that hothead who's now had to control his hot-headedness to become the elder statesman. He's in the fight now as the elder statesman. So all the props in the world should be given to Dillian Whyte, because if Dillian Whyte was to come and pull this one off, right, and don't think it's not possible for him doing it, it's just that Moses is just right now, he's a tyrannical monster, right? What can anybody say? But I'm saying the key shot for Dillian Whyte is actually going to be the left hook by tricking the jab off of it. But, I don't want to give out too much stuff because people listen to what I'm saying. But Moses Itauma is a monster. And he will be going into that fight as the favourite as well.
Definitely. Couple more from me that I want to just touch on. Fight this weekend, actually. Richardson, Hitchins and George Kambosos. George getting a shot at a world title. Hitchins has really taken this opportunity to put himself out there. We're hearing a lot of talk. He's talking as if he's going to, maybe stick it on George a little bit more. And George's look, he's been to the well against Loma, Devon. They've had the way with him. They've beat him, but he has had that night against Teo where he showed up and looked better. Look, Teo said he weren't at his best that night. What are you expecting this weekend?
You know what? I spoke to Tris Dixon earlier today because I haven't really watched a lot of Hitchins. Right, I watched bits of him. I haven't really watched. He did. What was it? The Proro fight. He, he's good, but he's not a puncher. Right? He's a skill star. And if you look at the guys that give George Kambosos trouble, right? Matter of fact, I thought that Lee Selby beat Kambosos when they fought.
I remember that. Was that in COVID? I think it was, wasn't it? I think it might have been.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. It was when the zone first come out, right?
Yeah.
And we was getting the zone for £1, right?
Yeah.
And we were given a promise that we weren't going to pay for pay-per-view. Anyway, that's another story for another day, right? But yeah, it was on one end, it was a matchroom show, and I thought that he did enough to win that fight, Lee Selby. That's what I thought. Kambosos is a good fighter, but he did fight, and this is no disrespect to Kambosos, I rate him. He did fight a subpar Teofimo Lopez. Especially after the things that we've seen Teo do afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But we see that he does struggle with boxers. And Hitchins is a complete boxer. So if Hitchins boxes, then I could see him coming out victorious on points.
There's one that always goes missing in these records and he never gets brought up. I've got to shout him out because he's my boy.
Maxie Hughes.
I mean, I was there in person and everyone I ask, because I obviously... my relationship with some fighters, I've got to take the goggles off, but I had Keyshawn near me, Shakur, I was going, how have you scored that fight? And Shakur just looked at me like I was, he goes, he's won it, and pointed to Matt, and I was like, right, I know what I'm watching's with educated eyes. So I
Maxie Hughes, I like Campbell, he's actually a nice guy. Maxie Hughes, but Maxie Hughes is my guy. Maxie Hughes is a guy that will phone me up and ask me on what fights he should be studying. Like, I really got a lot of time for Maxie. And also in public, he told people, I'll call Spencer up. You know what I mean? So I like Maxie a lot. Maxie he's a class act. He's also a class human being. Maxie Hughes beat him, right? Right, let's call it as it is. So I'm just looking at this now. I just think Hitchins may be just a little bit too slick. Plus, I'm not saying that Hitchins is on the level of Devon, right? Even though Devon isn't really impressing people at this present moment how he's fighting. But what I am saying is this. If Hitchins just sticks to the archetypal Black American style of hitting and hopping it, then I've got him winning on points comprehensively.
What do you make of the comments by Turki Alalshikh on the no longer wanting to promote the Tom and Jerry style of fighting? I mean, I was reading the tweet, laughing a little bit, thinking, it'd be interesting to see how some people take that, because is he subliminally aiming shots at certain performances, certain fighters? Because you know yourself, I had this chat with Eddie Hearn last night. If you're a fighter who can box, move and win, and you don't have to get hurt, don't have to get touched, look, it's not a bloodbath like the paying public maybe are enamoured for, but maybe you bring something outside there and you've got a bit of that personality that draws you in anyway. As a fighter, Andre Ward said, if you have that easy night, surely you're more inclined to take it. It's a catch-22.
Listen, it's a massive catch-22 because how boxing is now, right? How boxing is now is like, we want highlight reels, right? That's what we want, because everything is instantaneous now. We are living in the most microwavable way of living right now, right? And I can speak of that, of being of West Indian descent, because I know when we had the big Sunday dinners, my mom was preparing the Sunday dinner from Friday night. Now we're not like that. Now we don't season food well. I'm saying it's a big thing. Of West Indian Jamaican culture. We season our food. We make the seasoning marinate.
Marinate, yeah.
Right. Those days of marination are done, right? The marinations are now annihilations because we rush to have everything here and now. So in the generation where we are now, we want to see highlight reels. Oh my word, did you see that shot? Did you see how he knocked him out? And obviously we don't want to see guys hitting and running and doing things, right? But certain times, it's the difference about if you just want to have longevity of being a good fighter or do you want to become a superstar, right? And if you're doing things to be a superstar, you've got to do it in and out of it. But you have to do things to be a superstar. And I totally agree with Turki Al-Sheikh. Well, I'm not paying guys to be running. And it's not even a case of running because if you can understand certain artistry that guys are demonstrating, then it's not running. I never ever watched Sugar Leonard and said Sugar Leonard was running when he went up against Marvin Hagler in April of '87. He weren't running. It was technical movement, as far as I'm concerned. I will see what I saw in a couple fights recently that I was saying that's running and it's boring and it's not going to put bums on the seats. So obviously Turki Al-Sheikh putting that out there and everyone knows that he's the guy right now. He's the money bags. People do fall in line, but we want to say, well, we got to go give excitement. And he's absolutely right because he's paying the guys a shitload of money. So therefore, you need to go put in a really hot performance, and that's the truth.
You know. Well, look, we've covered quite a bit there. I appreciate you jumping on as always, Spencer.
Come on, man.
Dropping that knowledge on a Friday. Look, we will catch up very soon. There's things happening and turning all the time. So yeah, look, let's jump on with the next week or so, and we'll have another catch up. But appreciate
definitely, Matt. Keep on doing what you're doing, and like we got Boxing Social.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Spencer.